All right, folks. Next up, we have Sarah Hoffman. Sarah grew up in rural Alberta wanting to be a teacher. She has studied at both the University of Alberta and Concordia University of Edmonton, earning 4 degrees, including a Master of Education. Sarah got involved with the NDP during her education years and ran for a trustee position with the Edmonton Public School Board in 2010, kicking off 5 consecutive election victories, and is the current MLA for Edmonton-Glenora.
What a moderator. Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here tonight. And I, too, want to recognize that we're on the territory of Treaty 6. And I also want to recognize there are a ton of MLAs in this room. If you're an NDP MLA, please stand up, give a wave. Now, stay standing, friends. Stay standing. If you've run for the NDP, federally or provincially, stand up and give a wave, too. I know there's a lot of us. And if you volunteered for the NDP, stand up and give us a wave. And if you're going to make sure that we win the next election, stand up and give yourself a cheer. My name is Sarah Hoffman, and I am an absolutely proud, unapologetic New Democrat. I have been a New Democrat, as you've heard, my entire adult life. And it was really when I moved to Edmonton, in spite of the fact that my parents said, don't become a teacher, I decided that I should become a teacher anyway, that I was going to a lot of the protests. And it was around the same time as the war in Iraq had started. And there were NDP MLAs and volunteers who were there and helped me find my home in our party. More than just voting, they helped me learn that activists could have a place in the organization of our party. And I am so proud that that sort of sparked that initial joy that brought me to where I am today. I grew up, as you heard, you didn't hear Canuso, you heard a small town. Canuso is the name of the small town. It's about 3 hours north of here. 200 people live there. My dad was the principal. My mom taught kindergarten. It wasn't a scandal. They were married before we moved there. And you might imagine, I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. So when I was finishing high school was the same time that Ralph Klein had inflicted 5% rollbacks on both my parents' salaries. Teachers and educational assistants had been laid off. Custodial services had been privatized. And that custodian and my dad worked to take every other light bulb out of the school to try to save enough money to save one more educational assistant's salary. That's why when I told my parents that I wanted to be a teacher, they said, don't do it. They said the politics in Alberta is too bad. It's not respectful. We want you to have a career where you feel honored and respected. Hence politics. I took the scenic route to get there. As you heard, I took 4 degrees. But I'm so proud of the fact that I did pursue education and a master's in education. And during that time, I got extra involved in the NDP and applied for a job to be a staffer at caucus. And we have so many staff here as well. I know I didn't ask you to give yourselves a wave, but I see you, and I'm so grateful that so many staff are here tonight as well. And it was, as my time at staff, I was working as a researcher. We had 4 MLAs, and then a new MLA came on the scene, Rachel Notley. And Rachel and I worked very close together. And one night we were preparing to debate the education budget, and the Edmonton Public School Board was in the process of closing about 6 schools in mature neighborhoods right throughout Edmonton. And we turned to each other, and none of the trustees were talking about the fact that they were closing these schools because of conservative cuts, because they didn't have enough money to keep all of these schools open. They were talking about other things around the issue. And I just thought, enough's enough. We need to make sure we run somebody for the school board who's going to stand up for these kids. I said that to Rachel. And she said, well, then you should probably run. I was a behind-the-scenes person. I was an activist. I was a staffer. I was fat and I was sassy. And I didn't see myself being the one in front of the camera. I saw myself as one of the people behind the camera. But too much was at stake for us to sit back and let those schools close. So I turned to many of you in this room, and I asked you to give me enough money to get a leaflet. A leaflet so I could door knock in Ward G. Southeast Edmonton, there was an incumbent trustee. People said, don't run against an incumbent. Incumbents never lose. But I wanted to make sure that people in my area of the city, where I live, knew that there was somebody who'd have their back and who'd stand up for them and their kids. So we got enough money for that leaflet. I got a new pair of running shoes. A lot of you joined me on those doors. And not only did we win, we crushed it with 70% of the vote. And I did that as a proud New Democrat. I ran again for the school board and won again. I had the honor of serving as the chair for the Edmonton Public School Board, second largest district in the province, running a $1 billion a year budget. And not only did we keep those schools open, 5 of us had run on keeping schools open. We got 7 votes, so we convinced 2 of our colleagues. And often we were able to get 9 votes on the things that mattered most to us, 9-0 votes on the things that mattered because we built a team together. I was so honored to be the chair of Edmonton Public, and I know we have many teachers and educational assistants, QP members here today as well. And I was proud to make sure that we gave those kids, those students, those staff, and those families all voices in our classrooms. And that included standing up for their human rights, bringing the first 2S LGBTQ policy in Alberta. I remember visiting an elementary school and visiting with a teacher who said, I finally put a picture of my wife and me on my desk because I felt safe doing so for the first time. Those decisions, those NDP values, made a difference for the students, staff, and families of those schools, and they made our province safer as a result. So I ran for re-election, and I got re-elected. And then in 2015, in the lead up to the 2015 election, Rachel asked me to consider running in Edmonton-Glenora. People said, don't do it, you're crazy, you're running against an incumbent Conservative cabinet minister. She was quite popular, Heather Klimchuk, you might remember her. But it was too important for us to sit on the sidelines. We needed to make sure that we stopped the cuts that were coming to healthcare and education. So I turned to many of you in this room and I said, help me get enough money for a leaflet, please. Help me door knock. And we door knocked, and we door knocked, and we covered all of Glenora once before the writ was dropped, and I only got nominated the day after Valentine's. And then we knocked it again during the election. And what did we do? We won in Glenora with 70% of the vote. It was the first time we'd won that riding. It had been Conservative and once or twice Liberal. And it was the first time the NDP won. And not only did we win, we crushed it, and then we did again in the next election and again in the next election. I am so proud to have 5 wins under my belt. And I did that because I worked my ass off and I stayed true to my values. And we built an amazing team with so many New Democrats to make it happen. So now in 2.5 minutes or less, what I did when I was a Minister of Health and what I'm going to do as your Premier. As Minister of Health, I'm so proud of the fact that we stopped the harassment of people outside of abortion clinics. That is one of my proudest fights. We made sure that people who needed to access the abortion pill or the medication to prevent the spread of HIV could do so free of cost. We expanded healthcare services, tripling the capacity of the Misericordia Hospital, started the building of a new public lab in Edmonton. The Conservatives since paved over it and then tried to privatize it and then had to bail them out and renationalize it. It's been chaos, but we got that started. And when I'm Premier, we're going to get that job done. We're going to have a great world-class public lab here in Edmonton. And we're going to make sure that we expand acute care, primary care, all of the different types of tertiary care to make sure that you get the support you need in great facilities that can be easily expanded, like your hospital right here in Sherwood Park. So that's why healthcare is my number one. I'm really focused on 3 things: healthcare, climate, and housing. Healthcare is my number one. We can absolutely get back to having world-class healthcare, and we can make sure we get staff who feel respected, want to stay on their jobs, and recruit their friends and neighbors to come to this province too. We can do so by having the first NDP Premier, who was also the first NDP Health Minister. Climate is another big one for me. Many of you were door knocking in May, and we were advised that we probably shouldn't be outside because the air quality was so bad. When you can't let your kids play soccer on a hot summer day, it is a crisis point, and we need to act. I've released my full climate plan. There's so many details about the Youth Climate Corps, lots of economic opportunities. I hope you check it out. And then the third one is housing. And I don't care where you live in this province, you should have a path to being able to move out of your parents' basement. You should know that you can afford to live in a rental, that one day you'll be able to invest in home ownership, that one day you'll be able to get off the street and be able to live with respect and dignity. I will have so many more details to unroll about those 3 key pillars. I have lots of other opinions about stuff too. You know my background in education. So please, during our time to socialize at the end, come over, say hi, give me a hug, let's take a selfie. It's my absolute honor to be running to be your leader and the next Premier of Alberta. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.